The Tipu Sultan sword, or the so-called Tipu Sultan sword, has been one of the highlights of the collection and has had its own dedicated showcase within the gallery. One of the interesting aspects of this was to give it a closer examination and see whether the stories that went with it actually held water. Tipu Sultan was the ruler of Mysore in South India and was defeated by the British in 1799. Immediately after, his name acquired a legendary status. Any object then that could be associated with him acquired extra value and extra glamour. And this must have gone on with this sword. However, when we looked at it closely, we found that the jade hilt was not inlaid or worked in a quality that matched up with the rest of Tipu's objects, many of which are now known, and the sword blade itself had been redecorated in at least 2 phases. The blade is decorated, amongst other things, with a range of inscriptions and with the image of a tiger. Now, Tipu Sultan took the tiger as being his motif, and tiger stripes appear on many objects that were owned by him. And these are inscriptions in praise both of Tipu and then also of Shia Muslim inscriptions. So at first glance, the presence of a tiger and the name of Tipu Sultan certainly seemed to confirm that the piece belonged to him. However, on closer examination, we can see that the name, which is just pinpricked here onto the blade, of the alleged sword maker, Asadullah Isfahani, has actually been overwritten by the hatching and then the gold of the inscriptions that have been added later. Secondly, if we look at the tiger itself, the head is not as detailed and has not been drawn in the same way as the tiger heads that Tipu preferred, which in fact formed a calligraphic motif. One can never be definite about anything, but on the other hand, it looks highly likely that it actually did not belong to him, and in fact is one of the many objects which were enhanced during the first half of the 19th century and given a story doubtless to ramp up the value. And indeed, when the object was acquired by Lord Hertford, he was sold the story and would have paid a great deal more money for it than if he'd been told it was a lash-up of a blade that had been decorated and a jade hilt that had been attached to the blade. The gold Mughal dagger is one of the great wonders of Mughal decorative arts and arguably is the best of this kind of dagger in the entire world. To handle this object, which is undoubtedly an imperial object, is a tremendous privilege. We're looking at a combination of the workmanship. The best craftsmen in the Mughal Empire, which was in northern India at this time, were able to work gold and polish gems and stones in a way that was superior to what had gone before. It's encrusted with rubies, emeralds, diamonds, enamels. The gold is kundan worked, which means that it's hyper-purified gold, which can be made into very thin sheets, which then form a molecular bond at room temperature. There is a shaped ruby at the top of the pommel here, and going down the sides here, wonderfully symmetrical carving and settings of gems and also little pieces of enamel. At the top here we have a duck head which grows out of the knuckle guard, which passes through the gabled top guard here. Then down at the bottom here we have lion heads or tiger heads, and these are modelled from the gold and set with rubies. The teeth are of carved rock crystal and diamonds and emeralds and rubies set across the top. I think that this is an object which captures some of the magic of the Mughal Empire, which is of unbelievable wealth, enormous gems, unlimited gold, and something that today still resonates.